Hi, hello, and if you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Now, this video was going to be about the millions that I've made on YouTube through my videos and through affiliate sales, etc. But with the Oxford Canal opening, or the southern part of the Oxford Canal opening for 7 days actually this week, I thought I would do a quick review on what's going on in the Oxford Canal. At the moment, I'm down at the sort of bottom bit of the closure, which is now open, lock number 33, working my way back up the canal towards Cropredy. And the canal is open for the first time since the beginning of July. I've seen narrowboats moving along this part of the canal. Just saw two go into the lockdown there, and there's another one coming down this way. So the Oxford Canal has now been open for a couple of days. Well, this stretch has been open for a couple of days. Still a question mark over how long it will remain open. Certainly until Sunday, that's the plan. But if water levels get low, and from speaking to some boaters at the lock, there do seem to be some suggestions that they are getting low. If the water levels get low, then the CRT is going to close it early. But anyway, it's great to see the canal in operation again and boats actually moving around. And this is the fourth boat I've seen coming down. So far, I've not seen any boats going back up the Oxford Canal. Kind of odd, unless they all went up when it first opened, and now these are the boats that have worked their way through down the summit, down the Claydon Flight, and are heading down towards Oxford. It was just great standing there on a busy road bridge watching boats come into the lock. It was great to see the Oxford Canal in operation again. So this is the part of the Oxford Canal that was closed. It ran from Lock 33 south of Banbury to the top lock of the Claydon Flight at the southern end of the Oxford summit. The section closed at the beginning of July and opened again for a week from Monday the 27th of October to Sunday the 2nd of November, and was open from 10 AM to 3 PM, with the Claydon Lock Flight open from 10 AM to 3 PM, with the last boat in at 2 PM. The CRT, the Canal and River Trust, had also said that if water levels run low in the canal and reservoirs, the section may close early. So how are the canal and reservoirs coping? Let's have a look. Well, here I am back at the Boddington Reservoir on a rather chilly late October morning, so let's see how it's getting on. Wow. Okay. Okay, it's actually come up more than I was expecting. Still got a long way to go. That green sort of bank to the right here shouldn't be there. That still needs to be covered, and I guess it's still got another, I don't know, 10, 12 feet to go. It's hard to tell, but yeah, that's still got a long way to go. But it's getting there. Okay, so this is the bottom of one of the sort of fishing platform stands things, and it's a good, I'd say 3 feet, if not 4 feet below the bottom of the fishing area. Not too sure how high it should come up. My guess is sort of halfway up the stands. So Boddington Reservoir is still low, but it has at least come up. Okay, here I am at the feeder channel, and there doesn't appear to be much flowing through it. There's a pool of water here, which seems to have come via this culvert. over here, but it's not exactly rushing into the reservoir. There's a little bit of a flow on it, but not a huge amount. So let's go and have a look, see what's going on the other side of the road. Well, there's certainly some water flowing down here, and it seems to be going through the sort of, as it's coming down, right-hand culvert, not directly underneath this bridge here. And it is flowing, but not a huge amount, but at least it's flowing, so that's good to see. Okay, so it's hard to tell, if not impossible to tell, whether or not the reservoir level here has dropped since they've reopened the Oxford Canal this week. But on the plus side, there is at least water flowing into it, be it a very small amount. Right, let's go and see how things are getting on at the Wormleighton Reservoir. Well, here I am off down towards the Wormleighton Reservoir, and I was hoping to get around the reservoirs before the rain set in, but didn't manage it. And of course, I can't complain about the rain. We desperately need it. So let's see how the Wormleighton Reservoir is getting on. Okay, let's see what's going on at the Wormleighton Reservoir. Just over the bridge to it. No sign of movement on the canal. And oh dear, it's still looking rather low. Oh no, it's come up a little bit. Yes, it has actually come up. Quite remarkable. Still got a long way to go, but it's up a little bit. That is quite amazing. It was completely dry down this end the other month when I visited, and now there is at least some water in it, and the mud is beginning to sort of reseal. There's water sort of lying around, so yeah, so I'm quite surprised at that. Still incredibly low, but it's come up a little bit. That's great news. There's still no sign of anything flowing into the reservoir via the main feeder channel at the top. That looks bone dry still. So the water must be just sort of working its way in through small streams and the surrounding fields. Absolutely nothing flowing out of this culvert. But at least it's good to see that the water level has come up in the Wormleighton Reservoir. Now, the removal of the iron trough further up the canal means that there's no water coming into this reservoir from the right of this shot. And I was wondering about whether or not the canal could be used as a sort of feeder into the reservoir so it could act as a sort of pond, but clearly, obviously it can't, because if you look to the left you can see the reservoir, and if you look to the right you can see the canal. And it's clearly a lot lower than the reservoir, which makes sense as the water needs to flow out of the reservoir and into the canal. So there's no way, unless they install pumps, to get water from the canal and into the reservoir. So it's going to take quite a while to fill this up. It's got about, I don't know, 6-8 feet to go, I would have thought, at least. So from the Wormleighton Reservoir I headed up the Oxford Canal towards Fenny Compton in search of the spillway which replaced the old iron trough that used to take a stream across the top of the canal and into the Wormleighton Reservoir. And what was surprising when looking up the length of the Fenny Compton Tunnel, there was not a narrowboat in sight. Nothing was moving. However, it was still relatively early. The locks had only opened at 10 o'clock and it was about sort of 10:30, quarter to 11 at this time. So the chances are the boats hadn't actually reached this point yet. I found the spillway that had replaced the old feeder stream and iron trough, and it looked particularly dry. It didn't seem to be contributing much to the water in the Oxford Canal. Opposite the spillway, just up the bank on the side of the canal, I found the remains of the old iron trough system that took the water across the canal. There was supposedly a pillar arrangement here at some point that carried the iron trough. All that remains now is a bit of concrete and some brickwork in the undergrowth. And as I was walking back down to the canal through the trees, I spied my first narrowboat of the day. Finally, some boats on the Oxford Canal. Okay, that's the Wormleighton Reservoir done, and it was good to see some boats out on the Oxford Canal. Next stop, Clattercote Reservoir. Let's see how that one's getting on. Okay, so the last of the reservoir that feeds the summit of the Oxford Canal. Let's see how it's getting on. Okay, so here I am at the Clattercote Reservoir with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swans. Looks like a couple of adults and some youngsters from this year, and the water level is definitely up from my last visit, I would say, but it also appears to have dropped a little because you can see a slight tide mark. So clearly they're drawing water out of here to keep the canal going, well, to keep the Oxford summit going. Still raining, but good to see that there's some more water in the Clattercote Reservoir. Still got a long way to go though, to get back up to the level of the boardwalks that you can see around it. But no, good to see. Right, okay, next stop, let's go and have a look at some locks, because I was speaking to some boaters down on the Oxford Canal and they said that there are some significant queues at some of the locks to get through them. So let's go and see if we can find the Claydon top lock to see if there's anybody queuing there and find out what's going on. Okay, so I didn't make it to Claydon top lock, but this is Claydon middle lock, which is lock number 19. And one of the really useful things at this lock is they keep a scoreboard on the side of the hut at the far end of the lock. And when I was there just before midday, so they'd been open, what, 2 hours, they had had 8 boats up and 6 boats down. And the lockie told me that on the first 2 days of the Oxford Canal being open, they'd had over 50 boats go through the lock each day. That's an incredible number of boats when you consider that the lock was only open for 5 or 6 hours a day. Thank you. And back at the marina, the stop planks are gone and the boats are coming in. So I guess the opening up of the Oxford Canal has really helped people move their boats to where they want to spend the winter, or to just get them back to their home marina. A number of people I spoke to at the locks commented that that was what they were doing. They were desperately trying to get back to where they usually moor. They wanted to get back before the locks closed down again due to the shortage of water, or before the winter stoppages came in. Well, I'm now back on my boat and dried out. And that was a quick look around the 3 feeder reservoirs for the summit of the Oxford Canal. And as you could see, they're all incredibly low on water. We need a lot of rain. We need a very wet winter to get those reservoirs refilled. It was also interesting going along and having a look at the locks. It was great to see boats out again, people moving around on the canals. And it was interesting talking to the lockies on the Claydon Flight. They told me that they'd had 50 plus boats through on the Monday and 50 plus boats through on the Tuesday. And when I was there mid-morning, I think they were already about 10 to 15 boats. And that's quite incredible when you consider they're only open for sort of 5-6 hours a day. So that's a lot of boats, a lot of movement. I spoke to quite a few boaters. They were delighted to be moving again. There were a few sort of scary stories out there about boats moving around in the dark with no lights on, sort of trying to get through the locks as quickly as possible. But overall, people seem to be in sort of good spirits and sort of getting on with it, helping each other out, helping themselves in the locks, helping other people in the locks, and it was great to see. So anyway, that's the story with the low water on the Oxford Canal. The locks are due to shut again in about 3 or 4 days, so we'll see what happens there. They've already got all the materials in place to shut the locks, so it looks like it's going to happen. Anyway, thanks for watching for this long. Hopefully you found this interesting, entertaining or informative. And as usual, if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to give it a big like, a big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. On the screen now there's a QR code. If you scan that QR code or click the link that's below in the description, that will take you through to a free newsletter about my narrowboat, the Grey Wagtail. Again, thanks for watching for this long. Bye for now.